Hello everyone and welcome to Henry Wheeler's Movie Reviews, where I take a look at films that I've never seen before that other people likely will have done. And today I'm going to do something a bit different and look at a film that's on current release. So today I'm going to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League. So this is the director's cut of the 2017 DC Extended Universe superhero film, which was much derided by fans and the press in equal measure. The reason behind this being that Zack Snyder stepped down as director quite far into the filmmaking process due to a family bereavement, and the studio felt it appropriate to perform a hatchet job on the film by bringing in Joss Whedon to do a reshoot and to make it more light-hearted, like one of those Avengers films, and cut it down to 2 hours in length. Now, I hadn't seen any of the DCEU films, so I watched them all in the run-up to this release. So here's my ratings of them to give you an idea of what I thought, though I didn't see Wonder Woman 1984 because my friend who loved Batman vs Superman, inexplicably, even he didn't like it. Also, I realised most of the DCEU films happened after Justice League, so I didn't even need to watch them, so that was a bit of a waste of my time. Although the two of the best ones were released after Justice League, so it wasn't such an exercise in futility. So after fan pressure, the studio caved and gave Snyder $80 million to complete his version of the film, and that is including reshoots as well. And now we have the definitive version and original vision. You know, it's very rare for a director to get this much free reign to redo a film that's already been released, to essentially make a different film. I saw a lot of people demanding the Snyder Cut. Belonged to a few Facebook groups, two of which in particular, had a lot of release the Snyder Cut, we need to see the Snyder Cut. And they're demanding this as if he's this visionary director who, with his grand scope of ideas, will turn a complete turkey into a masterpiece. That's simply not possible. Yeah, I'm sorry, regardless of whether it was a mess or not, I didn't see anything in the theatrical cut which would suggest there was anything of note coming my way shortly. However, who knows? You know, I may end up loving this. I may think that, like IMDb, this is the 123rd best film ever. Oh, Christ. I'm probably going to hate this, aren't I? Let's just watch the thing. So following on from Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, where Superman dies after sacrificing himself, spoiler alert, and so the plot of this film revolves around an evil villain named Steppenwolf who's trying to get 3 mother boxes which are being guarded in each of the respective kingdoms of the Amazon, Atlantis and Earth, so they can take over the universe, while Bruce Wayne attempts to bring together a team of superheroes to stop them and to try and resurrect Jesus. Superman. So you're probably wondering, is it an improvement on the theatrical cut? And I would say substantially so. It doesn't feel disjointed anymore. Plot makes a lot more sense, there's more context, and it just looks better. Is it great though? No. And apart from the fact that I wasn't particularly engaged with the plot itself, it's 4 hours long. 4 hours. This is one of the most overindulgent films I think I've ever seen. You know, you could have easily lost 90 minutes to 2 hours of this. The problem with the original was that it cut out a lot of the scenes which would have been helpful for the context of the overall film, and left in a lot that didn't really need to be there, and added things that really didn't need to be there at all. And here we have those crucial scenes restored, but they're far too longer than they need to be.
That doesn't make sense.
The first 2 hours is a bit of a slog, and while it's nice to see more backstory. There's just too much of it. It's real overkill, particularly in the case of Cyborg, which could have been a brief few minutes and that was it. But no, it feels like 20 or so minutes of backstory, which does not need to be. It probably wasn't even 20 minutes, but it felt like it. Also, the flashback story was a great example of what I'm referring to. There's a scene where a truck driver drops a burger that he's eating while driving, and while reaching down to get it, he causes a car crash. Now, the Flash then attempts to save a woman in the collided car through his super fast / slow motion shtick, and we see a CGI sesame seed move towards the camera. That to me perfectly explained what's wrong with this film. You know, so much of what was employed was because Zack Snyder could do it. It wasn't because he should do it. It's that whole Jeff Goldblum Jurassic Park line all over again. Also, speaking of CGI, the issue with the look of it hasn't improved much. It's improved a little bit. Steppenwolf doesn't look quite so bad, but a lot of the CGI footage looks like a video game, and there's no real heft to it at all. Also, I'm very glad that a lot of the jokes from the Whedon cut were removed. The Pet Cemetery joke, which was used twice in the original cut, is no longer here, thankfully. But there's still a large number of jokes which simply don't work at all, largely from the comic relief, Ezra Miller. It's funny because I watched this the day after release in my friend's living room with his pal, and whenever a joke would come, I'd be assessing the room, looking around, and noticed that none of us were laughing. No one. That alone made me laugh. I do think there's some pretty interesting additions though. While the Amazon battle is more expanded and too long, it was pretty sweeping and reasonably spectacular, I'd say. Also, the black Superman suit looked pretty nice. And when they went to whatever Nordic country it was supposed to be, Iceland or Norway, I assume, to speak to Aquaman, the local women sang this song when he left, which I wasn't expecting at all, and really had me thinking, this could be quite interesting, actually. Like, I'm wondering what he's going to do with this. Speaking of songs, though, there's quite a few moments with somber music and actors looking broodingly into the distance. It's just simply unnecessary, and it derails the momentum. The thing is, I'm not a Zack Snyder fan. Shocking, I know. He's a flashy director who doesn't really know how to tell a story particularly well. His set pieces look pretty impressive, I guess, but that's it. It's everything around it that's the issue. He's essentially a perfect example of a music video director, and I'm sure if he was still doing what he started his career doing, he would be great at that. But it's not a skill set that you can necessarily apply to a completely different medium of feature filmmaking. Spike Jonze did alright out of it, but a lot of people don't. McGee is another classic example. In a few parts, his Nolan influence is pretty apparent, especially seen in London with Wonder Woman. Plus, I can see quite a few Fincher motifs in there too. Lots of impossible shots of cameras going through things that could only be done with CG. Also, there's a surprising amount of swearing in this and bloody violence, which I'm not used to seeing in these kind of films. Kick-Ass exempt from that. Again, this feels like it was included because they could do it. I don't think it's necessary since it jars a little with the rest of the film. And I also can't get over the fact that it really does look like a poor imitations of the Avengers. Cinematically, at least, I'm aware that Justice League came first, but you get my point. Ultimately, I wouldn't have many issues with it if it was just 2 hours in length, or even 2.5 a push. But I don't even know why the epilogue is even in there. It should have ended on that tracking shot of the Justice League, which would have been a pretty good place to end it, but no, it continues for another 30 minutes. Is it better than the theatrical cut? Well, yeah, because it was such a tonal mess and was in no way entertaining. But at what cost? 80 million, apparently. I'm gonna give this 6 out of 10. I would say that I like this to an extent, though I don't see myself ever watching it again. It's just not a film that I can sit comfortably and enjoy. I can't say that I wasn't bored, because I did feel the heavy eyelids at some points, and large sections were just very unengaging. Love exposure, it is not. I'm reluctant to say that this is his best film simply because of how needlessly bloated it is. It feels like fan service the movie, which it ultimately is. This film wouldn't exist without the fans, and I'm glad that Snyder got a chance to make the film he wanted to, given the context behind the previous version's existence. But I really hope this doesn't set a precedent for entitled fans throwing their toys out the pram and then getting what they want, because most of the time fans don't actually know what's good for them. And the fate of the film shouldn't really be in their hands, but with that being said, directors shouldn't have completely free rein either to make their masterpiece. Looking at you, Quentin Tarantino. Which this was being touted as being, and it's not. It's perfectly decent and a relatively enjoyable watch, but it's nothing more than that. And to all the fans who have been horribly abusive to critics, just wind your neck in. You got what you wanted. Now please be quiet, because I'm sick of hearing about this film now all the time. So these were my thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Oh.